butterfly lays the egg, it is about 3 days before it hatches, and then it becomes a little tiny caterpillar, and then it keeps growing. So for about 20-25 days, the butterfly or the caterpillar grows, and then they spin like a little web of silk on top of a cage, and then they hang in a J shape, and then the next day they will split and the green comes out, and they wiggle and wiggle and wiggle till it becomes its chrysalis. And then within about 7 days, the chrysalis will turn from green to clear. So you start seeing the butterfly's wings. So it's orange and black at first. And then then later on that day, they'll break the bottom of the chrysalis open, and the butterfly will pop out. And the tail is the first one to pop out, and it falls down, and then it has to hang for about 2 hours so that its wings expand, because it was all crunched up in that little chrysalis. So it has to dry its wings and let the fluid come to the wings. And then in about 2 to 3 hours, I let them go and put them on a flower or something. And I have a couple butterflies to actually show you, and I have a couple live caterpillars to show you too. Okay. So these guys have been on the move since we got on this call. So let me show you the little tiny ones first. So I got little baby ones. You can see this little baby one is probably about 2-3 days old. This one's probably about 4, and this is probably a week. And you can see that that bigger one's put a hole in the leaf. And then there was another caterpillar eating here. So they eat the leaf. And this is called milkweed. And this is the only plant that the mama butterfly will lay her eggs on, because that's the only food source. So here's another one that I climbed off the other leaf. So he's a little bit bigger. And here's another one. So this is a big milkweed leaf. I don't even know if you can see this, but I have a little tiny, tiny baby which just hatched probably today, earlier today. And I have these big guys. These guys are about ready to hang in their J, and then they will spin their chrysalis in a few days. And you can kind of see he's been eating at this leaf. And when they get this size, they munch and munch, and they eat a lot of leaves, and they're really loud. Usually you can hear them if it's real quiet in the house. You can hear them munching. This is a seed pod. So let me show you the flower first. So this is what the flower kind of looks like. It smells really fragrant. It's a pink flower, and it's usually at the top of the stalk. And then once the flower goes away, you get this seed pod, and then it dries and it splits, and the seeds fly like dandelion seeds. And this is what a little tiny plant looks like. I just pulled this from the garden today. And you'll be able to see the white egg here. It's a little white dot right there, no bigger than a head of a pin. And that one will hatch in a couple days. And then I have these butterflies. Let's see if they're going to cooperate. Okay, here's one of the butterflies. I think this might be the female. Yep. Okay, so she took off. Let's see. And this is the male. You can see what pretty color they are. When you look at them real close, you can see the little dots of color on their wings. But this is the male. He's got 2 little black spots on his hind wing. And when they're doing that, they're getting their wings ready to fly. So they're getting really ready to get out of here. I usually release them by about 2, 3 in the afternoon, depending on when they hatch. But they've been hatched for a while, so they're ready to fly off. Oh, here's my female. Put her back in the cage. They don't hurt, they don't bite you. They just tickle. When their little feet touch your hand, they just tickle. Same with the caterpillars. They don't bite you, even though that they can bite through a leaf. They just, they have a lot of little legs and they just tickle when they walk on you. So the monarch caterpillars are not poisonous to humans unless you eat them, because they have the milkweed, and the milk in the milkweed is white, sappy, and it's kind of bitter, so you wouldn't want to eat them. And the birds have learned over years not to eat them because they don't taste good. So that's the monarch's caterpillar's defense system. We have a couple different cycles of the monarchs here. We have about 3 or 4 up here, and then in September, October, those last ones to get born, they fly to Mexico, and they spend the whole winter in Mexico from October till March the next year. And then those mamas, they fly up to Texas and they lay their eggs, and the whole cycle starts over again for the next year. I tag them in the fall. So I put a little sticker on their hind wing, and then they get charted as they're going down and flying down to Mexico, so they can see how many butterflies have come and where they came from. And one of my caterpillars were found back 4 years ago down in Mexico, in the mountains of Mexico. So it's kind of exciting to know that. Like I said, they only eat the milkweed. There are a couple different types of milkweed, but that's the only kind of plant that they will eat. So do we have any questions? Oh, let me show you something else I raise them in. I have a tent over here, but when they get bigger, I put them in a tent, but I can raise them in a little reptile cage. So it's easy to clean. They'll come up here if I leave them to get bigger, and they'll hang up there and they'll live their life in here. But I usually put them in a bigger tent because I have so many butterflies and so many caterpillars. They have little antennas. So let me show you this bigger guy because you can kind of see them. So they have 4 sets of antennae. So the bigger ones are where the head's at. And sometimes when you're talking too loud, they don't like that. So they'll kind of rear their head up too. So you might see them do that. But this is his tail end. And they do like any other animal or insect, they go potty. So you have to clean the cage up too. And then what they do is, as they're growing, they outgrow their skins. So they shed also. So they'll shed their skin. They'll go up on the side of the cage and they'll crawl out of their skin, and they'll get bigger, and they'll be almost a different color. So you can kind of see these smaller ones, their stripes are really, really tiny. But when they get this size, their stripes are a lot bigger. Okay. And they're usually a yellowish, orangish color with the black and the white. If you see green ones, and those would be probably on other plants like your parents' herbs, like parsley and dill. Those are called black swallowtails. So those eat other kind of vegetables like carrot leaves and things like that. But the monarch only eats the milkweed. And let me see if I can break off one so I can show you what the milk actually looks like. So it's like white in the sap here. I don't know if you can really see it quite good. No, you can't really see it on this. The leaf is a couple hours old, so it's not as fresh anymore.